In our fourth module, we will provide some helpful tips to applicants regarding how to prepare and submit your ethics application. For every applicant, this process begins by preparing one of the application forms available on the Research Ethics website. This may include the main CURA protocol form, which is used for the majority of ethics applications that we receive, which are minimal risk or above minimal risk projects in nature. However, for studies that pose very low to no risk to the participants, you may instead choose to submit our very low risk form. This has very specific eligibility criteria. More specifically, the risks to the participants need to be very low. The participants should be able to provide consent on their own behalf. There should be no third-party recruitment on behalf of the research team, and there should be no deception used during the consent process. For the full details of when it is appropriate to use the very low risk form, please see our website. Additionally, for those working with a previously collected data set, it's not necessary to fill out the full CURA protocol form. Please see our website for a shorter secondary use of data form. Please also note that publicly available data and truly anonymous data do not require ethics review. Feel free to contact our office if you have any questions. Lastly, some applicants may already have clearance from an external research ethics board. In this case, please provide a cover letter explaining the details of the study and the extent of the Carleton University involvement. This letter should be accompanied by the ethics protocol that was cleared by the external REB, and also a copy of the external REB's clearance letter or certificate. Please see our website or contact our office for more information. Please note that you will also need to prepare the various ethics appendices for your application. Essentially, all documents or materials that you will use with participants should be available to the Research Ethics Board when they review your ethics application. This includes recruitment notices for social media, recruitment videos, emails, physical posters placed on campus or in a community center, or any telephone or verbal scripts that will be used with potential participants. All of these documents will be considered formal recruitment materials that should be submitted with your ethics application so that the REB can assess whether or not participants have been given the appropriate information up front, and also to ensure that recruitment has been done systematically in that all participants have received the same information. Some researchers also use a third party or organization to help with the recruitment process. In that case, please provide any documents that will be used by the third party. Secondly, please also submit copies of any research instruments that you plan to use with participants. This can take many forms, including questionnaires, interview guides, focus group questions, or detailed instructions, diagrams, or photos for how experiments will take place in person or online. If you plan to use specific equipment with the participants during an experiment, please also provide a photo of the equipment or a link to where we can see one, as well as a description of how it will be used. The key document that will be scrutinized heavily alongside your protocol is really the consent form. We provide detailed sample templates on our Research Ethics website to help new applicants understand the type of information that is typically given to participants up front, such as the purpose of the study, the tasks an individual will be asked to take part in, the risks to them personally or to their community, the research benefits to the disciplinary field, a community, or the individual participant, any compensation that will be given to a participant, if at all, how a participant can actually withdraw from the study if they change their mind, and how their data will be protected, shared, or presented, and if it will be attached to their names or not. The default for consent is always written consent. Consent can be signed in person, or it can be signed, scanned, and emailed electronically to the researcher. However, there are cases where it's more respectful, more culturally appropriate, or even safer to the participant to use oral consent as an alternative to written consent. In these cases, participants should still be given the full details of the study, and the researcher should keep a log to track how participants A, B, and C gave oral consent on specific days. Please see our website for sample oral consent documents that you might include with your application if this applies to your research. Lastly, in cases where the researcher is working with a vulnerable population, like very young children or individuals with cognitive limitations that might prevent them from being able to weigh the risks and benefits of the research and decide on their own that they're able to consent to the study, the researcher may need to take additional care when inviting them to the study. And this might take the form of using a parent or guardian consent form, and also approaching the individual participant and asking them for their own assent to take part in the study. So for example, when working with young children in daycares, a researcher would need a very simple script in language that a preschool-age child could understand in order to explain the study to the child and see if they want to take part in it. And this assent would be in addition to the parental consent form. The assent script should also be submitted to the REB for review. There are also a few other documents you may choose to submit alongside your ethics application, depending on the context of your research study. For example, if you're pre-screening participants in any way, because you have specific eligibility criteria for your research project, please provide any pre-screening tools that you will use alongside your application so that the REB can review them. Additionally, some disciplines, like psychology, find it useful to debrief the participants in order to increase the educational benefits of the research. And this is also a useful place for the researcher to leave their contact information with the participant for questions following the study, or to connect participants with mental health resources, for example, that might be available to them in their community. If the researcher plans to work with a specific community, business, or organization, they may also request a letter of support to include alongside their application. This is especially important for researchers who plan to work with Indigenous communities. In addition to providing a detailed description of their community consultation process in the protocol form itself, the REB will be looking for letters of support that support the ethics application. When a research team requires the use of a translator, transcription service, or third party outside of the research team, it is also usually best to include a confidentiality agreement. Please see the Research Ethics website for sample templates. Also, for new applicants, they may find it helpful to use our application checklist on our website, as it can cover off the various components of a research ethics application so that a first-time applicant can feel confident that they've provided everything that is required that is applicable to their project. And finally, for students, we do ask that students ask their supervisors to review their ethics application before they submit, and a copy of our supervisor signature form, which can be included with the application, is also available on our website. Some researchers find that the research ethics process can be quite helpful in forming and finalizing the details of a research project. Your submitted ethics application is actually a fully articulated research project, from the interactions with communities or partner organizations to design the study where applicable, to the recruitment and consent procedures, to the flow of the study tasks, any participant debriefing that will be held at the end of the study, and finally, the management, security, and dissemination of the data at the end of the project. Please keep this in mind when submitting your application, as you may be asked to provide more information regarding the study details, benefits, and plans to mitigate any risks to the participants. Secondly, please note that the Research Ethics Board is made up of faculty members from a variety of disciplines. In your protocol form, therefore, please explain your study in lay language. That means avoiding any disciplinary terms used commonly in your field. If you do need to use specific academic terms, please define your terms and provide examples where it may be useful. This is especially important in the participant-facing materials. These documents should also be tailored to the participant group itself. That means you may need to modify the sample recruitment, consent, and debriefing templates that we have on our website to be more clear to whichever group of participants you plan to interact with. If you're recruiting fellow students in your department, consequently, they may be more familiar with the terms that you use, and the general vocabulary and literacy level may be much higher than average as well, especially because Carleton students need to pass a literacy test when their first language is not English. However, in general, when working with the average Canadian population, the general practice is to write for a grade 8 reading level. There are tools available online that you may use to check your study material reading level, such as the Flesch-Kincaid readability tool, and it's highly encouraged that you use such a tool when you're preparing your study appendices. Please also note that the formal recruitment, consent, and debriefing materials should also include the Carleton letterhead, which is the Carleton logo. These are included in the sample documents on our website. Researchers are highly encouraged to use these templates for their projects. This is also where you can find the CURB A and B contact information, which is given to participants in the consent form. If it's your first time submitting requests to CURB, please check out our website for instructions and for our various application forms. You will also need a CU Research user account to submit your application, so please email ethics@carleton.ca to request an account. Once you have a draft of your protocol form prepared, if you're a student, we will also ask you to have your supervisor review your draft ethics application before you submit it to CURB. When satisfied, the supervisor can sign the supervisor's signature form on our website, and this can be uploaded to CU Research along with the rest of the application by the student. Alternatively, the supervisor can also email ethics@carleton.ca to notify us of their approval of a student submission. In their email, it's helpful if they indicate the name of the student and the title of the protocol. Once ready to submit, please combine all of the recruitment, consent materials, study instruments, debriefing materials, and the supervisor signature form where applicable into a single document and submit this with your ethics application in CU Research. CURB may ask researchers to clarify certain aspects of the research or make certain modifications before they grant ethics clearance. Once all ethical concerns have been satisfied, CURB will send a clearance letter to the researcher for their protocol. The clearance will be for a full year period, and researchers will be contacted by our office a few weeks before the end of this period to renew or close the file with an annual status report. Lastly, it can sometimes be necessary to amend a research protocol after a study has received clearance. This can be for various reasons, such as broadening a participant group, trying a new recruitment method, or changing some of the study tasks or research instruments. Such changes to protocol can be submitted on an ongoing basis using our Change to Protocol form on our website. Please email us at ethics@carleton.ca if you have any questions about this. Lastly, please note that once you receive clearance from the Carleton University Research Ethics Board, there may be other requirements for Carleton researchers. For example, there may be departmental requirements for student researchers. For researchers who wish to go abroad, they may need insurance, in which case they may need to follow the risk management policy and contact the risk management office. Researchers who wish to use student records for research purposes, such as student grades, will also need to contact the privacy office. All researchers are bound by the responsible conduct of research policy, which contains rules around plagiarism, and also the mobile technology security policy, which explains data security requirements that apply to sensitive data collected on mobile devices. For any questions about how to prepare or submit your application, please email ethics@carleton.ca or check out our website. Thank you.